Hi, my name is Jim Helsinger, Artistic Director here at Orlando Shakes, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our live-streamed Q&A with the cast and the creative team of the upcoming Josephine, which opens next week. Feel free to leave your questions about the production in the comments, and we'll try to get to them and answer them even as you ask them. First off, we're so excited to be presenting this production in our brand new tented courtyard, the Darden Courtyard, at Orlando Shakes. So when you come to see a production, it's going to be socially distanced. There are beautiful cocktail tables that we've had, and funding for all the outdoor tent and the courtyard work that we did was all generously provided by Orange County government through the CARES Act. So we just want to say thank you so much, Orange County and the government, for giving this opportunity to continue to put people to work. And that's what we want to do. Let's take a moment now and look at a few short clips from a previous recording of Josephine. The last time that this show was in Orlando was in 2018 at the Plaza Live. Let's have a look at it.
Oh, blue skies, smiling at me, and nothing but blue skies do I see. By age 17, I am Josephine Baker, a single girl living in the big city performing in her first New York show. Ha ha! An all-Negro musical called Shuffle Along. Well, not at first. Not exactly. Yes, I was cast, but then they sort of changed their minds and decided I was too small, too skinny, and too dark. Some of those chorus girls, they used to snicker and call me Kettle Black and Spook and all the sorts. That's all right, because I worked on that show. Oh yes, I worked behind the scenes, fetching this and that. Well, folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a low-down hoochie coocher. She was the roughest, toughest of frail, but Minnie had a heart as big as a whale.
Nous vivions tous les deux ensemble.
I'm feeling like a million, though I haven't got a dollar, a shilling, or a cent. Still, I'm feeling like a million.
I just love people, all people, and I particularly love them when they love me. I wanna go where you go, do what you do, love when you love, then I'll be happy. I wanna sigh when you sigh, cry when you cry, smile when you smile, then I'll be happy. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be
Wasn't that great? So let's meet the team that created this. First of all, I want to introduce Misha Harris, the actor who plays Josephine Baker. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
And Michael Marinaccio, the director and producer.
Hey, everybody. All right.
And we couldn't have with us, he originally planned to, but couldn't join us today, Todd Kimbrough, who's the music director, and we want to give a shout out to Todd for the creation in this product as well. As I said, if you're just joining us now, we want to hear your questions. If you have a comment, please put it in the chat, and we'll try to get around to answering it as best we can. Let me start with a few. So what was the original inspiration behind doing the piece at all? Was it coming from one of you of, I think I want to do this, or research, or what?
I think, I mean, initially it was kind of, I had the thought that just having seen Tamisha perform so many times and having seen her do amazing ensemble work with Varieties and tons of other companies, I felt like she really needed a vehicle for herself. And selfishly, I also wanted to hit the road with her. So we had just started dating back in 2015, and we were talking about this idea of me using all the things I had learned as a fringe producer, as producing shows, as creating shows over all these years. I created dozens of original works with my good friend and partner, Todd Kimbrough. And combining that with Tamisha's incredible talent on stage and captivating presence and voice and triple threat dance acting. So we just went about creating a show. And originally we talked about Tina Turner, right, Tamisha?
Yeah. I was probably coming from a gig doing Tina Turner impersonating, and just met up with a friend of ours one night, Christian Kelty, and he suggested Josephine Baker, and it just shot off fireworks, and it was automatic. Yes, that's right. She's been forgotten about. She, you know, her history kind of got just lost in the shuffle, you know. So it was a perfect time to bring her back, because the political climate that we were in was uneasy, challenging. And her story transcended through a great timeline, and we were kind of repeating some of the same things, and it was really important to get her story out as well. So.
Sure. And then how did it develop from the original idea?
We spent, I think we literally spent about 2 months watching, listening to, absorbing everything that we possibly could of Josephine Baker, videos. I think I have just about every book ever written about Josephine Baker at this point. But we went down that rabbit hole, and once we did, it was so clear that we needed to do this, and it started just inspiring the show to develop. We started talking about a show, and we had talked about doing it a few different ways, but ultimately her life is so rich. There were so many things we wanted to have in there that we thought, you know, the best thing we could do is a kind of a chronology and at least touch on these things in her life. And we wanted lots of music and dancing, of course. So we went to Todd and created a show.
Now, you're both Orlando performers and artists, but actually its first performance wasn't in Orlando. Is that right?
No, we took it all the way across country to San Diego Fringe. Yeah, Mike was adamant about taking it out somewhere where they didn't know me, you know, and somewhere where we could see what we had. And we built it as a workshop. You know, we told people this is a workshop piece. Our very first show was the dress rehearsal run, all of that mixed together. Like, I had no idea how I was going to do the costume changes. Mike was in certain parts in the show. Mike was on the microphone. Michael was on the microphone in the back, in a little corner, little cubby next to the lighting guy, because the risers, it was in the Spreckles Theater, and we had 125 125 seat risers on stage.
It was such a huge stage. This historic theater, 1912 theater in San Diego.
Massive.
That the stage was so big, they just put the seats on the stage. And we had about 15 people at that first performance. Yeah. Where when people watch the show, they'll hear voiceovers. There's all kind of voiceovers and things in it. I was doing every single voice on a microphone in the back, yes. But it was really a big test, because we had finished Orlando Fringe 2 weeks before. Tamisha was in several shows. I was producing the festival, and then we started really rehearsing in earnest, because we're like, oh my gosh, we got to do this thing. And then the Pulse tragedy happens. Yeah. And so our whole lives just kind of turned upside down for a little bit. And when we finally, the air finally cleared a little bit, the dust cleared, we were like, oh my God, we have 4 days, you know? And so we hopped on a plane, and I mean, running lines all the way up to, and for the next week after we opened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something kind of, I don't know about you guys, but for me, there's something magical about when you have a show date. You can develop a show forever, but sooner or later you have a show date, and then, hey, it's going to happen. And, and there's always that rush at the end, even though you go, actually, we had time or we didn't have time. But once the show date happens, you're pregnant and there's going to be a baby. You know,
we put something out. We put something out, and we had really great people in the audience. Beth Accomando was a reporter for NPR.
Yeah, local NPR and PBS affiliate. Yeah.
And she went out and told folks, and by the end of our run, we oversold the building. They had to sell out into the.
Yeah, we basically the 125 seats went so fast that then they were like, oh, we're just going to let some people come into this second balcony of this three balcony theater. And people came, and then by the last show, they were like, you know what, we're just going to sell it. And so they opened it up. We sold 350 tickets to the final performance in a theater that was supposed to be only 125 seats. And then Tamisha won best performer of the Fringe, and we won best show, best of the best.
From your first performance, having only 15 people at it, that's great.
Yeah, it was sort of a whirlwind, and that's when we knew we had something. You know, we had something that was pretty special.
We have a question coming in from the Facebook chat. Is this set in the 1920s? You want to tell us a little about the setting and what are we going to see as the framework of the show?
The show really chronicles her life, and it's so when she lived from 1906 to 1975. We have you'll see Josephine as young as 13 years old and as old as 62, I believe. March on Washington, 63, so somewhere around there.
I was thinking exactly of the March on Washington, which I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily in the arc of her life think of that, because you think 20s, 30s, 40s, but actually it's 62, 63, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but we definitely there's the 20s are definitely highly represented. That was the period where she really rose to fame. The famous banana skirt that we see here, where she really took Europe by storm. They had never seen anything like her because she was fearless and hilarious and so free with her body and so unique in the way she moved. And so captivating to an audience. I mean, she just mesmerized people. She ended up becoming the most famous woman in France, the richest woman in France for a time, the most photographed woman in the world for a time, starring. She's the first African-American, the first Black woman to star in a major motion picture, period. Siren of the Tropics in 27, but then she did several other films with white leading male romantic leads. And so, the 20s and 30s were a big part of her life.
It was interesting, Tamisha, you said she kind of got forgotten. And I was thinking of earlier something you had said of, there was a period where she was the highest paid entertainer in the world, I think, right?
Yeah. It's so crazy how she hit this high, and then I guess we'll get into this later. She has this moment at the Stork Club, and things just start to descend for her. And I say we'll talk about it later because it has to do with our next project, but I don't want to talk about it right now. So
we'll get there. We'll
get there. Just relax. No. And she hit this moment at the Stork Club, and then took such an interesting decline, and she got branded a communist. So as she was having this rise in the, civil rights movement and whatnot, she, in some people's minds, she just got vanished. She was vanquished out of America. She couldn't come here anymore. She was on the other side. And
yeah, it was her life was a real roller coaster. And it seems like every time the roller coaster went down, it was because of America, her lack of acceptance in America. She came back in the 30s and had a rough time. Then in the 40s, she was a spy for the French resistance, almost died in Africa and all this stuff. War hero, comes back, has a great run in the U.S., only to have the rug pulled out under her because she spoke out against powerful white liberals in New York. I mean, it wasn't even the folks you might think. So it was really just the roller coaster of her life had so much to do with her just yearning for acceptance in the U.S. And so we really made this kind of pull between France and the United States a big part of the show. this one.
So, oh, we have another question coming through right now. Are there any changes in the show since the last time you were performing it here? This says last year. I think the last time that it was here in Orlando was that plaza that we saw the little performance from. What changes have happened over time or even recently, or is it pretty locked?
We definitely don't have a band.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the biggest changes, I mean, the script hasn't changed very much, but the biggest changes have been are going to be the venue and
Right.
the experience. But we've done the show in so many different places. The plaza was 700 people, not or 900 seats or whatever, and a full band and a big show with big lights and all of that. But the show really at its core is a show that's meant for this intimate kind of setting that really thrives in the idea. The concept originally was Josephine invites the audience into her boudoir, and it's a dream play about her life. And so I think you'll get a much more intimate experience, and I know we're working. We're getting some help, kind of pilfering through Shakes's prop closet, but I think we're gonna really make it a beautiful experience unto its own. We're not going to try and duplicate that. We're going to try and work to the strengths we have here.
And as you said, you've had a lot of opportunities to do it in different varying sizes, venues many times. During COVID, you did it outside in the fall. Is that right? Am I remember that?
Yeah, we went to New Jersey, Morristown, New Jersey, and did the show in the top of their parking lot. You know?
Yeah, the roof of a parking garage.
The roof of a parking garage. And it was lovely. It was really interesting to have the background be kind of a wooded area. And so, yeah, as the show went on, there was a great sunset. But then the second night, the temperature always dropped. Got to like, I think 4 or something like that. And but it was a great experience. It was nice to know that people came and they had a good time. They sat in their pods and were warm and cuddly, and they had wine together, and it was a great date night under the stars. And it made the possibility like, oh wow, we could do this.
Yeah.
You know, have an amphitheater somewhere, we could do this.
I love the way that art finds a way.
Yeah.
It just finds a way. And we'd love to have it in our Margison Theater, our larger 325-seat theater. And we just don't feel safe performing in that yet. We think audiences want to be outside, they want to be wearing masks, they want to be socially distant. And that's what we want to provide. But I think that idea of outdoors, the tent is beautiful, the market lights that are over it, you have that kind of starlight kind of feel to it. It'll be very date night because everybody's at a cabaret table, 4-2,
right.
And have your glass of wine and enjoy an evening with Josephine Baker. Yeah,
and kind of picture it that we're at her chateau, chez Le Milan, in Paris, not in Paris, in France. It's not in Paris.
Yeah. The other magical thing about doing it in September, and that I really hope that I believe will happen here, is audiences are so hungry to get to see some live theater, live entertainment again. And it really makes the experience for us as artists and for the audience a really beautiful, fulfilling thing. You know, it means more. After having gone without it for this long, it means that much more to all of us. It means more to us, and it means more to them.
And Michael, that's certainly too. The first weekend is already sold out, and ticket sales moving on from there are very strong as well. And I think as more people get vaccinated and that it's performing outside and we're socially distant, our COVID numbers have really come down a lot in the last few weeks since the beginning of January. You know, we're starting to see hope. And we want to find a way to be together, but also be distant, to keep that distance at the same time. It's possible, and we want to do it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you could tell just this Facebook group that's going to come see it, not everybody, one little, I don't know, it's a backstage secret, or at this moment something happens, or what's a little something that would be just fun to be in the know as you were watching it because you watched this program?
Well,
She doesn't want to give anything away. That's what's Tamisha's problem.
Well, you don't have to say. You can say
no.
Well, you know
what? Screwed up and something didn't happen that was supposed to. Just so when we
There's
get to that moment, we're like, I know that.
One of my favorite parts in the show is going into the audience and picking an unsuspecting person to help me with my costume. It's not really a part. I don't, pick on them too much. It's not, audience participation of sorts. It's just, I need a little bit of assistance, and I'm going to miss that part. I have to do it myself. It's a great fun and play time, and there's moments in there, so you're not going to have that. That's a change. That's a change, Colleen.
Well, I'll say just historically, the play is actually, it's very, we really tried to be as historically accurate as we could based on her life, but we also did embellish some. And I will say that one relationship in there, and it is probably, it's around the middle of the play, with a famous painter,
Yeah.
and that scene, that relationship, is simply something that was rumored, that has really very little factual foundation to stand upon. But we just love the idea of it, and it sort of encompasses a lot of other things about her. But that magical relationship we still don't know, may or may not have happened. What's that?
It was a rumor. It was a rumor.
It was. Well, and Josephine was famously never disputed any rumor. As long as they were talking about her, that's great. She did not care. She would spread rumors. Right.
She might have started
rumors.
Might have started them.
Yeah.
I do want to, because you brought up not going into the audience. So when people are going to come and see the show, what are you going to expect? So you're going to be wearing a mask as an audience member, but Tamisha will not as Josephine Baker. She's on this raised stage above you, and she's this is the recommendation of the CDC, 14 feet away from anybody else while she performs, which prevents us from doing the audience interaction when you go into the audience, in order for people to be safe, both Tamisha and yourself watching it. But that is such a shame. We love that at Orlando Shakes. Shakespeare was a monologuist that wanted to talk to the audience and go out into the audience. And I love those type of special performances. It really distinguishes live theater from TV and film, because nobody's going to walk out of the TV and come sit next to you on the couch and have you help them with their clothes on,
Yeah.
So that's one thing that won't be there, but there'll be a lot of other intimacy that is. What else is developing? Is the show going, or is there a chapter 2 of it? Or what's the next project you guys are also working on, or beginning to, or are you?
Yeah, we've been working on the follow up to this for the last 2 years. And COVID really gave us a chance to really sit down and finish getting it written. Todd Kimbrough and I started developing it, and we brought in Paris Creighton the third, who's an amazing playwright, to come and do some dramaturgical work and also contribute a little bit of writing to it. We are going to be premiering it at Orlando Fringe in May, and it's called Josie and Grace. It's about the friendship between Josephine Baker and Grace Kelly. So
you got to come see Josephine, and then come see Josie and Grace. Did I get the title right? Josie and Grace.
Yes. Josie and Grace. I mean, you don't have to, but you would probably want to,
Well, I want to. And that's also hosted at Lock Haven Park, so you'll be in the same place coming to see.
Yes, we'll be over in the Silver venue, which is the Orlando Repertory Theater's venue, and it's going to be directed by the amazingly brilliant Ara Donatawari. So we're excited about that.
Love to hear about future life. When somebody's coming to see Josephine Baker, what are some of the songs they're going to hear her sing? What's kind of the vocabulary of the show as far as the songbook?
I would say some jazz standards, basically. We open the show with a song that was written for her, and it describes her two loves, which are America and France. So That's a song.
J'ai deux amours.
J'ai deux amours. And she sang it throughout her entire career. So that's something that kind of belongs to her, as kind of a moniker or whatever. And then we go on to some jazz standards. We go on to a really special song that, I don't know, do we want to give that away, Mike?
Well, I mean, we could talk about, you're talking about Afraid to Dream, I'm thinking.
I was actually thinking, well, the picture that came up is from our 11.
Oh, the 11 o'clock number, right.
Yeah. And I kind of don't want to give that up. Because
well, don't give anything away. Now, we heard in the preview, there's a little bit of Minnie the Moocher in there. We heard Little Yellow Rose. What are there some other standards that we're going to hear that we go, oh, I know that. I love that.
Yeah, there are also some songs that you won't know that really were Josephine Baker songs that maybe were a bit more obscure. Then I'll Be Happy, which is actually in that clip there, a little bit of that one. And Afraid to Dream, which is my favorite song in the show, is just a beautiful, beautiful ballad, and a song that really needs to be heard more. It's one of those songs that just got lost to time, and it's a real shame. So we're bringing it back.
I got another question here. I would love to hear more about the costume design. You wear a lot of beautiful costumes. What's that history?
I think I was subconsciously collecting costumes throughout my life to to costume this show. I actually don't wear this particular costume that's up there on screen. I don't wear that. That was a gift from lucky, lovely Blue Star. Blue Star is a showgirl, and she let me have it. But a lot of costumes, I'm always on the lookout. And something, once I get an eye for a character or a scene, or if I see it, I'm always on the lookout. And so I've stopped at the Goodwills. I've stopped at a couple of the stores, random furniture stores that have clothing in the back, like not even, you wouldn't even think to have some places. And I'm always buying. I have an entire shed that I'm into, and I would show it to you, but it's a mess. But I'm always on the lookout for costumes, and it's
traveling with Tamisha is like every thrift shop. There is no stone unturned, and it's really cool because we'll go to different cities. Edinburgh, we found some amazing things. Just all these different cities, and but I know that thrift shopping is always going to be a part of our trip there, wherever we go.
We're running out of time. If you had somebody was going to come to the show. Or they were just asking you about the show, and you were going to kind of say, well, look for this in the show, or let me tell you a bit about it. What would be a prep for coming to see it?
Good question.
Do they need to know anything about Josephine Baker at all?
You're going to learn a lot about Josephine Baker. And then usually what happens is you're going to want to go home and check out yourself. If you check it out and be like, oh, well, I saw some things, but I didn't see that. And then I saw this, but I didn't see that. It kind of all goes hand in hand. So if you want to do some research, do it. If you don't,
yeah,
I'll tell you a lot.
we've done the show for lots of people who knew nothing about Josephine Baker, knew very little about Josephine Baker. But then we've done the show. I remember one gentleman in New York when we did it off Broadway, who showed Tamisha pictures of all of his collection of Josephine Baker memorabilia. His entire apartment was full of Josephine Baker memorabilia, and just super fan. And he was in tears talking to Tamisha after the show, because it's just a story that hasn't been told, and hasn't been told a lot. It hasn't been told well, very often. It's here in America in particular, it hasn't been told nearly enough. In France, they don't consider her American at all. They consider her French. But she's buried in Monaco, not in France or the United States, because that's where she lived out the end of her life with her friend, Princess Grace Kelly.
Josie and Grace.
Well, we're coming to the end of we're at the end of our time. Thank you, audiences, for tuning in. We open next week in the Darden Courtyard tent at Orlando Shakes. For Josephine, it's going to be a blast and a really great time with this very polished show. It's played off Broadway. It's played fringes all the way around the world. And we can't wait to have it housed at Orlando Shakes. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you at the tent.